Good morning, Bengals fans. It's Bengals UK here, brightening your early morning routine with another quick reaction show because obviously the Bengals played last night in a Thursday night game live on the television machine and we won, didn't we? We won. We're 3-1.
Yeah. We won. God
We're
knows
three
how
and
we
one.
won, but yeah, we won.
There were some other people supposed to be on here today, but unfortunately, the late night took them, and they are, I think, probably under a duvet cover somewhere, getting some well-earned sleep. But one hardy man has joined us today. Jamie, good morning. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm incredibly tired. Obviously, I stayed up for the entire thing. Got a bit of sleep. And managed to wrench myself out of bed for this and talk to all of you lot and talk to Paulie Hirons.
What a treat that must be, waking up with me in the morning. It's the stuff of dreams, I tell you that right now. Big night last night, wasn't it? I mean, I think we said on the tailgate earlier that wasn't necessarily a trick game, but you know, it could have all gone wrong because of the emotion surrounding the whole night. The TV cameras are in town, the Ring of Honor, fans just seeping from every pore. By the looks of it, the atmosphere inside the stadium during the game sounded fantastic. The atmosphere outside of the stadium looked terrific. Everyone having a great time. Everyone like super pleased to be a Bengals fan. We've got some pride back in this organization. And we were 14-0 down at half time. What did you see in that first half? It was mental, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. So I mean, firstly, Trevor Lawrence is clearly an outstanding quarterback.
Yeah.
He's going to be a star in this league for years to come. The Jags aren't a hugely good team at the moment, but Trevor is, he's tall, he's quick, he's got a great arm on him, he's got great accuracy on him, and in the first half, he just did an absolute job on us. The defensive injuries, in particular, meant that there were big soft bits in our defense. We had Brandon Wilson in instead of Bates for the entire time. And as much as I love Brandon Wilson, he's done great things for us in the past, particularly on special teams. It didn't work, and we had an awful lot of trouble with particularly intermediate stuff. We just got shredded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also you mentioned Lawrence's mobility. What is he, 6'6"? But he was pretty shifty. And from what I woke up early and watched the game this morning, and thing that I noticed was that they were getting him at third down and short, but every time it seemed, certainly on one drive in particular, when they went 14-0 up, he just seemed to be kind of RPOing it all the way and getting first downs pretty much every third down, if that makes sense. He was not unstoppable, but it's difficult to stop when you've got a guy that big and that shit. He put a move, didn't he, when he scored that touchdown
Oh
on
yeah,
Sam Hubbard? That was just incredible. And I thought Hubbard played pretty well last night, actually. But he put a move on Hubbard that was just like, he can't, it's kind of Lamar Jackson-esque, really, isn't it? I'm not saying that Trevor Lawrence is anywhere near as kind of a run-happy quarterback as Lamar Jackson, but he certainly can, cause problems, and he
I'll
did.
tell you exactly who he reminded me of. It wasn't to the extent that the Niners used to use him, but he looked a lot like Colin Kaepernick on
Right.
particularly those plays, and it was because he's so tall and he's so
Yeah.
kind of sort of leggy. Just there's legs everywhere.
Yeah.
That defenders couldn't tackle him. The defenders couldn't even get close to him. It's like trying to tackle a
Giraffe.
yeah, a
Fat
very
giraffe.
angry giraffe.
um, I mean, their scoring drives just seemed to go on forever. And James Robinson was running well, and as you said, they were moving the ball in the intermediate stuff. And when we did get the ball, we didn't capitalise. But you've got to take your hat off to the Jags, and sometimes you do for the opposition. I thought they came out and executed the game plan just fantastically well in that first half. But the key, though, really, the momentum swinger, just when you thought, typical Bengals, Ring of Honor, national TV cameras in the stadium, full house, we're going to actually lose this, aren't we? But it was that fourth down stop, wasn't it? Right at the end of that first half. That was the critical play in that game, I think.
Yeah, and there's no issue with Urban Meyer going for that on fourth down. It's the obvious choice to do. You've only got a yard to get. Obviously, you've got Magical Trevor's been making people miss all night. You've got James Robinson, who is well capable of getting that yard and getting that touchdown. And frankly, the Bengals couldn't stop anything in the first half. And to be fair, in the second half, there were some points where they stiffened up a bit. They struggled all night to stop particularly kind of intermediate pass plays, stuff involving the quarterback running, James Robinson going off tackle. These were sort of particular weaknesses. Mayer had all of that in his locker, and unfortunately, just for one play, well, fortunately for the Bengals, unfortunately for him, it kind of fell apart, and the Bengals managed to get that stop, and they survived. They survived into the half. They managed to escape having sort of conceded the safety, and yeah, that's kind of as bad as it got.
And it was also a tipping point because they came out after halftime and just marched down the field in about 3 players, and CJ Uzama scored on a nicely designed screen, actually, and that just kind of gave them such a boost, didn't it? When, as you say, when they couldn't really get anything going on offense. I mean, that Tyler Boyd had a huge night, some nice catches from Jamar Chase. Burrow looked pretty sharp, I thought, throughout. But yeah, that was crucial. That end of the first half and certainly the start of the second. I mean, within a kind of space of like literally a minute or so, if you add the two kind of, the fourth down stop and then the kind of very quick offensive drive, they were back in the game, and you could see the crowd getting into it, and you could see the team getting back into it. Who impressed you? I mean, CJ had a huge night, not only one but 2 touchdowns and a crucial third down conversion right down the stretch there. Who else impressed for you on the offensive side of the ball?
I think something has to go to Frank Pollock, and this is kind of based on how he went about implementing the running game. That Joe Mixon wasn't particularly that much of an issue in the first half. He wasn't getting yards on the Jags, and they were struggling to use him. They brought a lot of jumbo packages in. I tend not to like jumbo packages because usually it's just a recipe for players to get in the way of each other. But they managed to find something that actually worked against the Jaguars' front, and it negated any penetration they were getting. And as soon as Mixon started to cook, they could do things off that. Now, I don't know whether that will work against a load of other opponents, but it worked on this occasion, and they made adjustments to fit the opponent, which may well not have happened in the past. So you had Burrow hitting intermediate passes to particularly Boyd and particularly Uzoma. They shredded the Jags kind of linebacker shelf and safeties in the second half. I mean, it's the kind of thing that teams would used to do to the Bengals when we didn't have linebackers. We just go to your tight end, go to your slot
Mm.
receiver, and kill them that way. I mean, obviously Chase got involved a bit. There were receptions for other receivers as well, but they did a good job to actually game plan away back into the game on offense.
And we've been quite critical of that, haven't we? The fact that there doesn't seem to be a plan B, or at least if there is a plan B, it's not implemented quick enough. And I think, obviously, at halftime, they thought, right, we've got to do something a little bit different here. And hence, the jumbo packages getting mixing, but I'm mixing 16 carries for 67, 4.2 average and a touchdown last night. Joe Burrow, 25 to 32 for 348 yards and 2
They're
touchdowns.
lovely stats.
Yeah, fantastic.
The Burrow line is great last night,
Mm.
and obviously he took charge, and quite a lot of this win is down to the fact that we have him behind there. He's such an efficient and such a creative player,
and also there's no panic about it, and there's just kind of like, right, we're 14 down, we're at home, let's just go out and do this, and they showed in the second half more what they were capable of. I thought, as you say, once they'd adjusted to Jacksonville's defensive game plan, they looked much better and just kind of cut through the Jags a lot of the time. But then the Jags came back as well, and you've got to give them credit. There was one particular throw from Trevor Lawrence down, kind of fitting it into the tightest of windows on the sideline to Jamal Agnew, where he toe tapped. That was just a sensational play. And, as I say, we're talking about Lawrence and giving him his juice here. Objectively speaking, it was just a great game because, 14 all, they came down and kind of scored again, and it was just like, bloody hell. This is going to be, I mean, it was toe to toe, wasn't it, between two fantastic young quarterbacks, really. So that was the big, I'm sure that's what the networks and the big newspapers and the big websites will be taking away. Burrow versus Lawrence, 1-0 to Burrow, but what a fantastic duel, I guess, because both quarterbacks played really, really well last night.
Yeah, and it was a great demonstration of sort of not only the similarity in kind of talent levels between the quarterbacks, but also the differences in how they go about their business. So obviously Lawrence is, and this isn't a slight at Joe, but Lawrence is more of an athlete. He's quicker and he's bigger. But they both have two very effective ways of skinning a cat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Joe's leadership, just seeing some footage of him in the locker room afterwards, kind of giving speeches and whatnot, there's no doubt that he is the leader of this team. And he's kind of, they call him franchise, and that's why, he's incredible under pressure. He's incredible, and he did get some good protection last night, actually, especially again in that second half. But he generally got some good protection. I don't think, let me just have a look, see if the Jags got many sacks. There was a few dicey moments, but
yeah, there's definitely a sack at one point. Yeah, I remember one,
and we only got one sack as well, and that was Logan Wilson. I think that was a bit of an iffy one. That was running Lawrence out of bounds, but he was credited with the sack. Hendrickson got one, but that was kind of called back. So a pretty emotional night. And then, of course, you've got redemption for Evan McPherson, if you want to call it that. He missed his first field goal, which is, I think it's kind of quite nice to get that out of the way, really. I didn't, even though I think he's great and I think he will be great, and he is great, actually. I hate all this kind of pressure being put on him. Kickers are going to miss occasionally, let's face it. But he came down the stretch, 4 seconds to go, biffed it through, no bother. And I know that you're a fan of Evan. You must have been pleased seeing that.
Yeah, I mean that's what we've drafted him for. That he has, the technique and the ability to go out and make big kicks for us. again, it didn't phase him. It didn't seem to play into his mind at all. It's a difficult stadium to kick at. All round, there's a reason why Bengals kickers don't last long, and it's because kicking at Paul Brown Stadium is particularly hard to do. You got the wind coming in off the river. You got the weirdly shaped stadium, which means that the wind whips around in there. But he's had a miss. It wasn't a particularly understandable miss for a kicker of his talent. It was a 42-yarder. He should be making them, but he managed to get rid of it and just bonk through the winner.
And it was great. We are now 3-1. It's quite odd it's not we haven't been 3-1 in September for a while. I think the last time was, do you remember when it was the much loved Atlanta game when we won that in the dying seconds? I think that was the last. What was that? 4 years ago, I want to say.
4 years ago, pretty much this weekend.
That was Marvin's last season, wasn't it, in charge? And so yeah, I mean, oh hello, we've got someone coming in. Who is it? It is Mike Smith. Good morning, Mike.
Morning, all. How are we?
Hello.
Right, how are you?
Shattered. Quite frankly, stayed up, went through that, and my daughter very kindly let me sleep in till 5:30 this morning. So I am. I'm just on my way. I was parked up to do a run for a coffee.
Oh, lovely.
Bennett Carew says, "Morning, chaps. Who day? Morning to you, and who day to you, Bennett." Andrew Knott, who day was dreading checking this morning. I did too. I tend not to stay up for it and then watch it early-ish in the morning, not to Mike's standards there, but I sort of tend to dream about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like I know it's on my mind, and I'll kind of half wake up at about 5 o'clock and think, oh, it's the game. And then I'll start dreaming about it. And I did dream that we lost last night. So I was kind of dreading, like Andrew, checking the scores. Mike, what were your biggest takeaways? Was it just is it just a case of thank God we won in the end?
Biggest takeaway is that, well, Joe Burrow is the real deal. The issues on the knee are no longer existent. My also biggest takeaway is not to feel too smug, but I did predict that Uzomah would have a good season. I think that prediction is nicely coming true, and it's another asset to our Arsenal. I think Tyler Boyd has got some level of magnetism with him and the ball, but also, and that some of the catches last night were unbelievable. But also, I think the defense is showing something which we haven't seen for a long time in Cincinnati, and that's resilience. That stop at the end of the second quarter keeps it at 14-0 compared to a 21-0, and I'm not quite so sure we'd have done enough to make the comeback there. My last takeaway from it really is I think we've got to give more trust to Joe Burrow to orchestrate the offense. In my ideal world, he would become a Peyton Manning-esque type QB. He's got all this, and the OC and the head coach are used as eyes in the sky or picking up pieces that he might have missed on the sidelines, giving that advice. I think it's time to give Joe that responsibility. It seems as though the entire team's behind him, supports him. He's willing to put himself through after his injury. I think against Green Bay, I would love him to show and demonstrate to the world up against one of the greatest of all time in Aaron Rodgers that the crown has firmly passed from that generation to Joe Burrow.
You're right, Mike. The next game is going to be tougher, much tougher, I think. We're 3-1, which is fantastic. It's about where I thought we might be if everything came off, and things are coming off. The free agent signings, offensive line play is better, still not amazing, but better. Mixon's better. Chase is kind of a threat straight away. 3-1. I mean, where are we as a team? We'll soon find out against a team like the Packers, I guess, Jamie.
Yeah, they are playing the Steelers this weekend, so it looks like they'll probably be 3-1 as well. I mean, not to diminish our achievement in beating the Steelers, but they are awful right now, and I don't see. I mean, obviously, Green Bay will probably make hard work of it because they always do. They always have that thing where they leave it until sort of 40 seconds left to try and beat an opponent. And then it's 2, 3, and 1 teams, and that's probably the game of the week. Sat there in the sort of 6 o'clock slot, the 1 o'clock slot for people in America, the 12 o'clock slot for people in Green Bay. I think it's going to be a real fun one, but we have to sort of make it. We have to start going. Burrow is our guy now. It's all right to run a bit. It's all right to kind of have that balance just to keep teams honest. But Joey B is going to be the one that's winning your games, and we can't be putting him on a play counter anymore. He is the franchise.
Mike, we're 3-1. I mean, are we a legitimate threat going forward? I mean, do you expect us to trouble the playoffs? Will we be relevant in late December?
At this very moment, I think it's just to say we are the best of the best of the rest. It's only when I despite the fact that this team has gone into hell and won, aka Pittsburgh, despite the fact it came back from very nearly laying a terrible egg on primetime last night. But until I think we start overcoming the likes of Green Bay, the Buffaloes of this world, I think we're still very much the best of the rest. But the trajectory is up at the moment. It's looking positive. I don't think any team is going to fancy playing Cincinnati this season. It's going to be a tough game. But just going back to Jamie's point about Joe Burrow, I would rather now see us lose games, but Joey Burrow gets that experience. I don't think I think that what he's learned off the field, he's more or less achieved what he can achieve. I mean, it's known that he has this photographic memory of the playbook. He has the swag. It's time now to give him that experience of the real deal. And if it means that he makes the odd mistake, then fine. But for his long-term growth and for this franchise's long-term growth, I think it's about time we give him the reins and let him make the mistakes, but also the mistakes are going to be far minimal than the successes are with him. You can just tell that he is absolutely. He just thinks I am king here. He took the game by the cojones last night. It didn't faze him. Let's go Burrow.
All right, mate. We'll let you go. Thank you for coming on. We'll see you soon. Yeah. And look who it is. 25 minutes late. We're just about to wrap up, Pete. I've got to get to work in a minute.
Yeah, listen, sorry about that. I must have had something strange to eat last night because I had these really strange dreams last night that we'd stunk the place out, absolutely stunk the place out on the one game we didn't want to. And then some people lowered some signs celebrating some players, and that at half time, and that inspired the game to completely and utterly change and then win this game. Really weird dream. What happened with the Bengals last night? Any idea?
We just gubbed them, really.
Yeah, we won 54-7, Pete.
Oh God, it was just. It was so being a Bengal. I tweeted the point. Welcome to Bengals fandom. It was just unbelievable.
But haven't you got to give credit to the Jags, though? They came out and played a heck of a game that first half. Defensively, offensive game plan. We're just saying Lawrence looks a heck of a player. But it was that stop at just before halftime that gave them the boost. You know,
that's it. I mean, I tweeted shortly beforehand. Someone needs to make a play to inspire the team, to change something. Offense, defense, special teams. Someone needs to make a play, and then of course we get the fourth down stop. And Logan Wilson was fantastic all night, but that was it. And I tweeted at the time, I hope it's that. I hope that's the play. And then just as I was drifting off to bed at the end of the game, I again tweeting saying, "Oh, turns out it was," because it was a game of two halves, absolute game of two halves. And just the emotional roller coaster. I mean, don't do this to us, Bengals fans. We're up in the middle of the night.
It happens, though, doesn't it? I think we said on the tailgate last night it's going to be a tricky one. I think it's going to be trickier with the injuries in key positions. But I think you've got to take your hat off to the Jags. But also you've got to take your hat off to the
Jags. Were apparently. Apparently the Jags were in the last game and against the Cards. And then they capitulated, but they were in the game up to the fourth quarter, I think.
Yeah.
And you could see that last night. They were not as bad as their record had told. No. And they came out, and I think they were buoyed by McPherson missing the kick on our first drive. And then they ran the ball down our throats. And our rush defense, which had been so good all season, just could not stop them.
No.
But I don't think many people like to credit the coaches all that much, but there were some changes made at halftime. We ran the ball far better. We on offense, the way we were throwing the ball changed. That's why we were able to drive very, very quickly, and it took a while for the Jags to adapt, but they did, having conceded 14 points in 10 minutes the second half football. They then drove down and got a touchdown, which showed great character. And again, I tweeted at one late in the second half. I said, "One stop, whichever D has one stop will win the game." So
it turned into, as we were saying earlier,
shootout.
It was turning into a shootout between two really fine young quarterbacks, and it was again objectively fantastic game as well. You know, so
great for the NFL. I mean, it was just I saw a Vikings fan in the first half saying, "How did we lose to this Bengals team?" And we were stinking the place out on national TV, and then come the second half, the tweets that I saw from around the NFL were very, very different. I saw one person who I follow very often, and he writes to the NFL saying it's easy to root for Joe Burrow because he is so nice. They like him, and the NFL is in a great place when those two quarterbacks are going to be the face of the NFL for a decade plus.
Absolutely. Right, I've got to get to work, lads. Jamie, you've got to go to bed. Pete, I don't know what you're going to do. You're up and about now.
Well, I was asleep and then I got a phone call that woke me up, and then I suddenly thought, I'm bugger.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys, and thank you for watching. We're 3-1. We're 3-1. Amazing. Yes.
And 4-1 next week.
Enjoy a stress-free Sunday, everybody. Watch Red Zone. Enjoy it. Kick back. No pressure. We'll be back with the podcast on Monday, and then, of course, we'll be building up to the Green Bay game the following Sunday. But until then, we're 3-1. Hoo day to everybody.
Hoo day.